Let's open our hearts to Jesus. Everything I say is, I'd really like to have you think about this book, The Fulfillment of All Desire by Ralph Martin. I've been reading it for about a month. And it's just so beautiful. It's a call to holiness. And that's, in a sense, the topic of my speech. I shouldn't say my speech, my word from the Lord, I hope. The fulfillment of all desire. Jesus, the fulfillment of all desire. We can choose him, and he chooses us. The choice of Jesus, who will fill us and fill all our desire. I have to live up to my reputation for jokes, so... Andre had, you remember Andre, he besides that I'm under obedience, he's the boss, and so he told me I have to talk and make sure I refer to his talk. So I was thinking of something that would be a little humorous about that, but has a point to it. He had all those chairs, remember, like who's on the throne? It's like a throne. Who's on the throne in your heart? Well, Andre's a wrestler, I think you know that. So when he first got married, he was having children, and he felt he was pretty tough, and so he wanted to be the Lord, the King, and so he'd go to each of his children and he'd say, "Who's the king of this family?" He trained each child to say, "You are, Andre, you are." Then he'd go to one of his other children, "Who's the king of this family?" And they'd say, "You are, you are." He'd go to each child, and Joe was getting a little bit tired of this, and finally he came to her and he said, "Angel, who's the king of this family?" And we don't know, but Angel has her black belt in karate and judo. So he picks Andre up, smashes him down. He gets up again and says, "Who's the king of this family?" She picks him up again and really slams him down. He gets up again, he says, "Just because you don't know the right answer, you don't need to get mad about it." But it does have a point, because who's the king in your little world? Who makes the rules for you? Who decides what you're supposed to do and what's right and what's wrong? I think we're the king. Actually, God made us the king or the queen of our little world. And we have to decide if we want to abdicate the throne and acknowledge Jesus as the Lord. And Andre's talking about putting Jesus on that throne was beautiful. But I think if you're as bad as I am, I kind of nudge him off a little bit. It's like driving the car and I give Jesus the wheel for a while, but then he doesn't seem to be going the way I want him to, and I grab the wheel. I kind of push him off and I take over. But usually that ends in disaster when I take over. I don't know if you ever do that. Do you ever take over? Who's Lord? Who do you desire? What's your desire who's going to be Lord? I have one other little silly joke which has a point. I hope the Lord doesn't mind. It's a silly joke. We'll make it like a real story. Before Andre got married, I got to know him. He had a little farm, just a tiny little farm, and he's working there, and he had some horses, and so I'm driving by, and Andre waves me down. He didn't know me too well, and I didn't know him too well, but a little bit, and I knew that he was, at that time, he was kind of in love with Angel, but she didn't know it. And so he's dragging this dead horse. And I said, and he says, "Could you help me a little bit to drag?" So I dragged the horse with him to the gate. And it was a hot day, and so we're going to stop. And then we drag it. He says, "Can you help me again?" I said, "Well, sure, I guess so." And we drag it up on the porch. He says, can you help me again? And he gives me a little drink every once in a while, a puff or something, because it was hot and I was sweating. And we drag it into the house, and he said, just one more thing. We drag it up the stairs, and we drag it into the bathroom. And then he says, one last thing. And I says, wow. I was sweating. I said, okay, Andre, okay. Must be some meaning behind this. And he says, how many sit it on the toilet? So we sit it on the toilet. And then he says, come on down, we'll have a drink. It's hot. So finally I says, Andre, why in the world would we drag that horse? All the way up the stairs, on the toilet. He says, well, I have a friend, he says. And he's really rich. He's got a big ranch just a little ways from my place. I know him quite well. And his dad is very rich. And he has everything I want. And his dad bought him a BMW convertible, And I was so excited. I thought, wow. And I said, wow, your dad brought you a BMW convertible. And this guy says, yeah, I know. He says, and then his dad had him going to pay his way for a big trip, all over the place, over to Rome and everything. And I was kind of jealous. And I said, your dad, he paid your way to go on a beautiful trip. And this guy always says, yeah, I know. He doesn't seem that excited. I was so excited. And then I heard that Angel kind of liked him and was in love with him. And that really bothered me, he said. Because he wasn't, and I said, that beautiful girl, Angel, she's in love with you. And he says, yeah, I know. And I said, so what's that got to do with the horse? And he said, well, he's going to come over, and he's always got something. And he's always said, I know. So we're going to have a few beers, and he's going to have to go up to the bathroom. And he's going to come running down, and he's going to say, do you know you have a dead horse sitting on you? And I'm going to say, yeah, I know. I hope the Lord forgives me. But here's the point. Listen. Your dad loves you. Your dad gives you everything. Your eyes, your ears, your life, because he loves you. And your dad is, even many of you, he's given you somebody to love you, a husband or a wife. Because he loves you. He gives you food to eat because he loves you. You say, yeah, I know. Sure, yeah, he gives me everything, so. He gave you Jesus, present here, to die for you, to make up for your sins. And you say, oh yeah, I know, Father, I know. He's given you a place in heaven where you're going to have glory forever. He's written your name in the book of life. He's made you his child by baptism and shared his very life with you. And you're called to share his glory forever and ever and ever. Do you say, I know?